Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Rural Virginia residents face some of the same crime problems as people in cities and suburbs. Ever wanted to make your own hydroponic garden? We have tips on putting one together. And we visit Caroline County for our regular county agricultural close-up feature.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from the grounds of the State Fair of Virginia in Caroline County, where they're celebrating the history and future of Virginia agriculture for 10 days. We'll talk more about the fair and Caroline County in just a few moments. But first, Ricky Gibson reports on the challenges farmers face from rural criminals.
Preventing unwanted visitors from stealing property is a challenge in farm country. Corporal Palmer Clifford with the Goochland County Sheriff's Office says, unlike their urban neighbors, farmers usually have a lot more acres to protect.
You're talking 3 or even more, upwards of 100. There's a couple properties that are over 1,000 acres. So access points is a big one. You have your typical driveways, and you may have 3 or 4 of those for one large property. But then there's nothing else around, so people can access coming off of an adjacent property on one side. Sometimes they can park on the roadway and just enter through a field or the wooded area. So you just can't secure it reasonably with finances through a fence or anything, because they'll still find a way to get in and approach whatever property. And if they're trying to steal something and they've already got it in mind, they're going to go after it.
A recent rash of stealing catalytic converters from vehicles has hit urban and rural vehicle owners alike. Kerry Harding in Amelia County says his son caught 2 thieves red-handed in November of 2021.
My son, who was hunting, came up on 2 guys at the back of our farm that were stealing some parts from us. And he called me, and we eventually found them as they were fleeing on the 4-wheelers, and I followed one of them. And he stopped, we got his 4-wheeler, and the police came and did investigation. And then after many months, they finally narrowed it down to who it was and arrested them. And they've been to court. One of them has been convicted, and the other one is to be sentenced in October.
Harding says the thieves took equipment and caused damage worth about $12,000 and cost him and his son several days away from the farm testifying in the court cases. In nearby Nottoway County, farmer Bo Toth says both an ATV and a pickup truck were stolen from him, worth $15,000. Neither of those vehicles have been recovered. The pickup was stolen while sitting on a rural road with a flat tire.
When we went to get the vehicle, somebody had came with a rollback. We could see the evidence of the mark on the ground and loaded up the vehicle and stole it sometime during the night. And then about a month and a half after that, we had a 4-wheeler sitting up here at the grain bin for one night. We generally keep it at the house, and somebody stole that. Prior to that, they tried to cut the catalytic converter out of another pickup that we had while it was sitting at our working facility where we work cattle at.
Toth feels there's been an increase in property crimes due to more drug problems in the community. He'd like to see more arrests and convictions, but he realizes it's a big challenge.
When somebody steals something to get very little gain, whether that be $5 or $500, it just lasts them for a little short while until they need it again, and then they'll do it again. And a lot of these guys study on what they're going to do. They have somebody go out and spot the stuff while somebody else comes along and steals the stuff. They've got it down to an art, for sure.
According to statistics from the Virginia State Police, the number of arrests for all types of crime has declined slightly in rural Virginia the past 2 years. Clifford says the pandemic certainly had an impact, along with recent changes in state crime laws. The Virginia State Police help, but for most rural residents, the local sheriff's department is their first line of defense against thieves. Clifford says he and his fellow officers do their best, but there are 290 square miles in Goochland County alone to cover, and often only a few deputies on patrol. His suggestion to rural property owners is take what steps you can to reduce a crime of opportunity.
So if I were to recommend property for this, with a couple $1,000s worth of hay bales, you got an expensive tractor and a utility trailer, it's always good to take the keys out of the tractor, lock up the utility trailer the best you can. Any door that accesses the interior for tools or equipment, put a lock on it. You can put a lock on the trailer hitch. You can also get solar powered lights and have those stationed around the property. They can be motion censored. Another thing that you can do that we recommend is if you can get a trail camera. Those often run on battery and they are motion censored, and they can sometimes, if they have the satellite service, or I'm sorry, the cell service, they can send that to your phone. If you're out of town and you're close with your neighbors, they can keep an eye on the property and let you know if something's going on. And you can also contact the sheriff's office and have us do a vacation check if you're going to be out of town, and we'll check your property periodically.
The good news is sometimes a property owner does get it back, even if someone steals a tractor.
Earlier this year, during the snow, there's a tractor at one of the shopping centers. They were using to plow the parking lot. Somebody came in the middle of the night with a trailer, loaded it up, and then headed out of town with it. It was actually recovered a few days later in Virginia Beach, where he had posted it on Facebook to sell it. So we were able to contact Virginia Beach and tracked it down that way and got it recovered and brought it back to the owner.
Harding and Toth agree. Landowners have to step up their own security to reduce theft in the countryside.
No, you just have to be aware, especially if you store equipment away from your farm. You know, you just have to check on it, but it can happen overnight. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Security cameras, that would be nice, but that's another problem. So, you know, I guess you just have to be aware the best you can be, but it's hard.
You have to be more vigilant. We got some game cameras that sends pictures to our telephones, and that's a monthly fee and then the initial cost of it, and it's just a lot of headache that, you know, it's mindset is you went from living in a rural area that you not lock the doors at night to now you lock them during the day on the vehicles, and at night you don't even leave them around unless you got them with a camera on them, or it's just a big inconvenience. We rent farms that's in several localities, and it's hard to get that stuff moved home every day.
Higher fuel costs and weather worries already keep many farmers up at night. Now, just like their urban cousins, farmers have to be on their guard for criminals looking for a quick score. In Goochland County, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson reporting.
There are several different legal classifications for trespassing, but going on someone's property without permission is a Class 1 misdemeanor under Virginia law. Someone convicted of that crime could face 12 months in jail and up to a $2,500 fine. If someone steals $1,000 or more worth of property, like a vehicle or equipment, with the intent to sell it, that's considered grand larceny. If convicted of this felony, they face between 2 and 20 years in prison. Police and security experts say strong laws help, but it's still vital for property owners to lock buildings and vehicles to prevent easy access.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about how to grow lettuce in your do-it-yourself hydroponic system from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
We're stronger together, especially at this difficult time. For over 90 years, we've watched our membership grow, and we're honored to be part of such a special community. Thank you to the farmers who provide for us every day. Virginia Farm Bureau is proud to serve our members, their families, and to give back to our local communities. That's the Farm Bureau way.
Earlier this year, Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension showed us how to build your own hydroponic system for a home garden. This time, he finishes up construction and starts growing lettuce from the ground up.
Well, hello and welcome. Today we're at Virginia State University's Randolph Farm. We're in a greenhouse and it's a little loud, but I'm going to try to talk a little loud so you'll be able to hear me. We've got this DIY hydroponic system that we built several months ago. About 6 weeks ago, we put small plants in this channel right here, and you can see they're almost ready to harvest right now. And every week we plant a different tray with lettuce in here. But you know, if you look at this, these heads that are getting ready to harvest are really doing well. And this DIY system is doing just as well in terms of production as this more professional system that we have behind me here. The lettuce looks just as good. So this is going to be something great for you to grow in. But before we plant into this channel, I want to show you exactly how we seed that down and what we use to seed it down into before we plant it. So for this hydroponic system that we're growing in today, we have to plant in those small plant spaces, and we really can't make a large container or small plant that's really large like this tomato plant. So we have to use something very small. We use products like this right here, and it comes in little cubes. This one's called rock wool. You can see you just break these little cubes apart, and they have a small place that you actually put a seed into. And this wicks up water very well, and this allows for good germination of the plant. So we end up with nice germinated plants, in this case a lettuce seedling. And the roots grow through this. This media doesn't really provide any nutrition to the plant, but it just is a substrate for the roots to grow through. But what we have here is a nice small plant that's ready to go in this hydroponic system. And so that is one of the ways we do it. We also have some little discs like this and compressed material here. And this one, you soak it in water, it will get much larger. It'll look a little bit like this. And you can put a seed in here and it germinates, and then the roots can just go right through here. We can also use something like this in our hydroponic system. As you can see here, here's some other seedlings. You can see the roots are growing through. So what I want to do now, I'm going to take a couple of these and we'll go back there and we'll plant and get that done. So this channel is ready to be planted. We've got our irrigation input, so nutrient solution is flowing through it. And so now we're going to use some of these small transplants and go in here. This is that expanded peat pellet that we talked about earlier. We got a nice seedling here. The roots are starting to grow through. It is a little short to put in this, but what we're going to do is kind of push it together a little bit and kind of lengthen this, and then it's going to fit kind of nicely right into this channel. Perfect place, and then that is going to serve well for that transplant to grow. The other option, like I mentioned before, was this rock wool cube. And if you notice, this cube is kind of short. It's almost a little bit too short to go into this 2-inch pipe without kind of being swallowed up or falling in there. So one of the things we do as a little bit of a hack here, we will make a taller rock wool cube. We will take one of these cubes, cut it in half that's not being used, and then put it on the bottom of an existing one that has a plant in it. We'll push a little toothpick through there, and you can see the roots just grow right through it. And when we do that, it's the perfect height. As we put it in there, you'll see it sits up perfectly, doesn't fall through. And we've got some more, and it's just as simple as placing them in this plant space and letting them sit down there. Now those roots that you see here are just going to be bathed in nutrients, and they're going to take up what they need. And speaking of nutrients, this tank right here has all the fertilizer and nutrients that the plant needs. So let's talk a little bit about how we manage that, because we really want these to grow and they need fertilizer. This reservoir holds all the fertilizer, all the nutrients that the plants need to grow, and they are growing very well. So we have about a 20-gallon tote right here, and we're using about 15 gallons of water, and we add fertilizer to it. And we have some powdered water-soluble fertilizer that we use. It's really a professional type brand. But you also can find different fertilizers that will go in here very well and work very well for the plants at your local garden center. Sometimes you can also find just liquid fertilizers that you'd mix in water that are concentrated. One of the things that you want to do is monitor the pH and the amount of fertilizer that's in this solution probably 2 to 3 times a week. There are various types of meters you can buy to monitor this, and they can be very expensive for some of the more commercial models. But something like these right here, a pH pen and an electric conductivity pen, are less expensive, and you just simply use these by putting them in the water, and you get a reading off of here. And this one, the electric conductivity pen, kind of gives you an idea of how much fertilizer is in the water. And it helps you, after you've mixed this up and have it right, it lets you know if the plants are taking up enough nutrients or too much. Also, the pH pen you can put in here, and it'll give you a level of your pH level. And that lets you know where you're at, maybe where you should be, and where you can make adjustments. Now, this is crucial to really make the fertilizer right to begin with. And you can find fertilizer recipes online, but you can also talk to your local county extension office and they can help you figure out how to mix this up. Okay, so we've turned it back on. It's running pretty nicely now. We've got our last planting in here for the time being right now. You know, as I go across here, it's almost been 6 weeks And these aren't quite big enough as this variety tends to get, but I think it's about time to harvest it. It looks pretty good. So the way that you harvest this is you just kind of reach down here towards the bottom and you kind of give it a yank and a tear, and it comes right up. You see those roots are there. And you've got a beautiful head of lettuce here, ready to go on a hamburger or a sandwich or make a salad out of. Really nice product coming out of your DIY system here. It's something you can do. Contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Hi, I'm Tammy Brawley from The Green Kitchen. Coming up on Heart of the Home, pumpkin cheddar muffins. We hope you'll stay with us.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
It's officially pumpkin season, but there's more than one way to bring the flavors of fall into your recipes. Chef Tammy Brawley shows us how to bake pumpkin cheddar muffins in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from The Green Kitchen. Here on Heart of the Home today, we're going to show you guys how to make some delicious savory muffins. We are going to do pumpkin cheddar muffins. Typically, pumpkin's considered sweet for the fall and for the holiday desserts, but today we're going to do a savory muffin. We're going to start out with about a half a cup of canned pumpkin, which is always very popular at the holidays. And we're going to add that pumpkin to our mixer. To that, we're also going to add a tablespoon and a half of sour cream. Interestingly enough, you can also interchange sour cream with yogurt. I've done that many, many times. About a tablespoon and a half. You're just looking for a little bit of a tang, and that's what we're doing there. And we're going to add 1 egg. And we're going to blend that together nicely combined. While that's blending, we're going to go ahead and mix our dry ingredients. What I have here is about a cup of all-purpose flour and about a quarter of a cup or so of dark brown sugar. To that, believe it or not, I'm actually going to add cayenne pepper. I love the bite with this, but I do only want about 1/8 of a teaspoon or so. But we're also going to add black pepper, and to that we want about 3/4 of a teaspoon, and we want the same amount of salt. So we've got 3/4 of a teaspoon there. Since I don't have a dry spoon with me, I'll put my lid back on my little Tupperware container. Mix our dry ingredients together. And we're going to step back over to our mixer. It's nice and blended. We're going to go ahead and add our dry ingredients, a little at a time. Maybe kick up the speed by 1 notch. I'm going to stop the mixer and just get down with the spatula there and get it nice and combined. The dough looks pretty darn good. Pick it back up and go ahead and kick it back on. Now we're going to add about 3/4 of a cup of cheddar cheese. I know a bit more than 3/4 of a cup in here, but I don't need to use it all. All right. So to that, we're going to go ahead and add some melted butter. All right. Now we're better. So we have a nice little portion scoop here, and we have some muffin liners. You don't have to use these paper muffin liners. I find them to be easier for cleanup at the end. And we're just going to portion scoop right into the muffin tins. All right. Now we've got some fresh pepitas or pumpkin seeds. We're going to drop those right on top of the muffins. If you get yourself a container of the pumpkin seeds, keep them in the freezer, keeps them fresh. And we're going to come back with just a little bit more cheddar cheese. Sprinkle that right on the top. And they're going to go into the oven on about 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. All right, through the magic of television, these have been in the oven for about 20 minutes or so. When they come out, this is what they'll look like. Nice and melted cheddar on the top with the pumpkin seeds. I absolutely love these with a bowl of chili, a bowl of soup, anything in the nice cooler fall nights. I'm Tammy Brawley with The Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
In 2020, Virginia farmers harvested 5,400 acres of pumpkins that were valued at $17.6 million, according to the USDA. Most Virginia pumpkins are raised on farms less than 5 acres large, reflecting their importance to pick-your-own farm operations. Larger pumpkin farms generally sell to wholesale buyers, who then ship to grocery stores and home centers across the Mid-Atlantic region. All pumpkins are part of the gourd family, and the iconic orange pumpkin is just one variety found at pick-your-own farms. So-called ghost pumpkins have white rinds, while other peanut pumpkins have mottled skin.
We're in Caroline County, site of the State Fair of Virginia. While the fair features plenty of agriculture, farming is also vital to this growing community. Burke MOELLER has more in this week's County Agricultural Close-Up.
Located just north of the Richmond metro area, Caroline County is one of the few rural counties left along the I-95 corridor, and people who live here are working to keep it that way. Named for Caroline of Ansbach, a former Queen of England in the early 1700s, Caroline County still has some of the architecture from that era. For example, Newmarket Plantation was established in 1726. But that's not the only connection to royalty here. Caroline County is also the birthplace of Secretariat, considered by many to be the greatest racing horse of all time. His records still stand in the American Triple Crown, and visitors can see the barn where he was born and other memorabilia at the Meadow Event Park, home of the State Fair of Virginia. But even with those historical roots, farmer Robbie Carruthers knows that change is inevitable.
Well, when I was a child, my grandfather used to always say that at some point Richmond and Fredericksburg are going to meet, and we are right in the middle. We got it coming up from Richmond and we got it coming down from Fredericksburg, so it hadn't gotten here yet.
Carruthers is a third-generation producer who started in nearby Hanover County and moved to Caroline because Hanover's land was becoming too expensive. He's hoping that conservation easements will help farmers keep their land for farming.
Basically, they restrict it to growth. So you couldn't sell it for development, you couldn't sell it for commercial, you couldn't even do 10-acre lots. It would have to be kept for agriculture or timber.
Carruthers' property was originally a land grant from the King of England in 1726. It's now a 450-acre family-owned property, and Carruthers is hoping to play on that rich heritage to get into agritourism. Linwood Broadus runs Spring Hill Farm with his son Bates, who is the 6th generation to work the property. As the Caroline County Farm Bureau president, he's well acquainted with the diversity of agriculture in the county.
We've got some farmers in the county that are all produce. We've got some that are hay, straw. We're predominantly grain, but we've got a lot of people who are doing produce, especially on a small scale, pick your own. Being between Richmond and Fredericksburg, there's a lot of market for produce. And I can see where the agriculture in Caroline is changing. Population is moving in because of our proximity to Northern Virginia. So there are markets that are opening up for produce.
Broadus is also involved in explaining how farming works to visitors at the State Fair of Virginia.
It's amazing. If you put on coveralls and a check shirt and you can walk up to people and carry on a conversation and they don't back away. They stereotype me as a farmer. That's what they're used to. Then I can explain to them about my farm. I can explain to them about what we do with continuous no-till. And I can explain to them, yes, that we rely heavily on chemicals, Roundup, 2,4-D, and other insecticides and fungicides, but we are producing a safe and abundant product.
Caroline County has 222 farms covering 61,831 acres. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Caroline County is ranked third in soybean acres planted in Virginia and second in the state for bushels produced. Caroline County is tied for fifth in the state for grain corn production with 12,100 acres planted. Vegetable production brings in $2,366,000. Livestock farmers bring in $970,000, and most of that is from cattle and calf sales. The market value of all agricultural products is $22,908,000. Corn and soybean crops account for nearly all of that income, bringing in $18,466,000.
95% of the agriculture in Caroline is from grain and growing grain.
Mike Broadus, no direct relation to Linwood, has a lifetime of knowledge about the land in Caroline County.
The soils here are really prominent in growing grain as opposed to some other things. We cannot compete, obviously, with the really sandy soils of the Eastern Shore and growing potatoes. We cannot compete with the water-holding clays in the southern Piedmont for growing tobacco. But we do grow grain crops here especially well.
Kevin Tate works for M.S. Terrell & Sons in Ruther Glen, producing corn and soybeans on 8,000 acres. He's another Caroline County farmer with deep roots here.
I was born and raised. My grandfather, he started it. You know, he started the operation in 1974. And then we just, you know, followed his footsteps along with a lot of other family members here on the farm, has followed his footsteps.
You can see the difference in atmosphere between Caroline County and more developed communities just by visiting Bowling Green, the county seat. It has a small-town feel that stands in contrast to the modern architecture and pace of life of more suburban Virginia communities nearby. With so many families that have such strong ties to agriculture, it's easy to see why the people of Caroline County are taking steps to keep their community as rural as possible. Farmers are creating conservation easements and taking advantage of other planting tools to keep their land open for agriculture for generations to come. In Caroline County, Virginia, I'm Burke MOELLER reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart, oh.